This is Reading, the fourth largest city in Pennsylvania. It's just a 64-mile drive from Philadelphia, and the two used to be connected by SEPTA Regional Rail. But when I filmed this back in March, the trains were long gone, and there were only 2 Amtrak Thruway buses a day on the route that were due to be cancelled just a week later. So my friend Miles in Transit and I worked out what would soon be the most direct car-free route between these nearby cities. So per the clock on Philadelphia City Hall, it is 5:55 in the morning. According to my plan, I'll be in Reading in time for a late lunch. And to start my plan, I'm jumping on SEPTA's regional rail at Suburban Station, which will take me up to Norristown. A Silverliner 4 pulls in, and we're off, soon reaching Jefferson Station. Welcome back to SEPTA.
Thank you.
Curving to the north, we emerge onto former Reading Railroad trackage. Wait, Reading Railroad? As in, railroad that can take us straight to Reading, Pennsylvania? It's so sad to think that these very rails go to Reading, and back in the day, we could have just stayed on this train and been at our destination in like an hour and some change.
Yeah, how long is this taking instead? Like 8 hours?
I don't even want to know. The Philadelphia and Reading, later the Reading Railroad, was founded in 1833 and opened in 1842 to carry anthracite coal from the mountains down to Philadelphia, and it operated numerous passenger trains as well. Several of these lasted past the dawn of Amtrak, as the Reading viewed them as too commutery for the new nationwide operator. Instead, trains between Philadelphia and Reading would come under SEPTA control. By this point, the Reading line was operated with Budd RDC cars, which would start at Reading Terminal in Center City, before continuing up the electrified commuter line to Norristown, which we're now on. Then, traveling further to Pottstown and Reading. Reduced state funding and an ongoing dispute with Conrail led to the service's closure in July 1981. Since then, there have been a series of transit operators between the two cities. But as of filming, there were only 2 buses per day in each direction, both operated by Amtrak as part of their Thruway network, and like I said, they were about to be cancelled. Also, the last one left Reading at 2 p.m., so we wouldn't have very long in the city before we had to ride it back. The train arrives in Manayunk, where we can see a viaduct crossing the Schuylkill River in the distance. More about that later. Then, we're paralleling the river up to Norristown. After Norristown Transportation Center, a track peels off to cross the river. This would have been our route onward to Reading if we were taking this before 1981. Instead, we get off at Elm Street Station. A little further than we need, but I want to finally visit the end of the Norristown line. So how is morale, Miles?
Morale is actually pretty good right now. I feel like somewhat conscious. I'm not like completely dead.
Our next part of the ride is the 90 bus, which will take us from Norristown up to Pottstown.
I asked Caleb, I was like, should I go for the hotcakes and eat them on the bus? And he was like, yes. This is a terrible, terrible idea.
It's nice that they come with a little plate though.
It's food.
So we are now on the prison deviation.
Yeah, Montgomery County Correctional Facility.
We just passed a sign saying Turtle Crossing, next half mile. All right, we are in Pottstown. So behind us is the former Pottstown Reading Railroad Station. And back in the day, you could hop on a train here and ride up to Reading in a decent amount of time. But unfortunately, that train no longer exists.
Okay, so how are we getting there instead, Caleb?
We are going to walk for over 3 hours.
My dad says he likes the videos where people are grumpy. I'm grumpy.
Conflict!
Exactly.
So is this a man versus nature or man versus man? Because I'm making you do this.
You're making me do this, so we'll see if we're still friends by the end of this.
I love how they're using the train platform here as a bus platform. You still have the departure screens. You could easily imagine these displaying like train departures and stuff like that. And thus our Google Maps directions begin with a estimated 3 hour and 8 minute travel time.
It's better than 3 hours, 9 minutes.
Do you think if we climbed into that thing, it would take us to Reading?
Here's what we do. I climb in, you push.
So this is the scariest part of the walk right here. We have to go under the former Reading Railroad tracks, and the only part of the walk that actually has a sidewalk is in the tunnel. So on either side is just a grassy embankment.
It's a cool bridge, actually. 1918.
Oh, it has a little Reading Railroad diamond.
I mean, you know, we have bridges from the 70s that are collapsing, and yet this one is still here after over 100 years.
We still have hours to go, but the rest of the journey is going to be smooth sailing. See, back in the day, the Reading wasn't the only one running trains between Philadelphia, Reading, and the coal-rich mountains. the Pennsylvania Railroad wanted a piece of that pie too. So they just straight up built their own line right next to the Readings to siphon away traffic. Of course, when both lines became part of Conrail, there was no further need for two parallel lines to the same place. So the Pennsy line was ripped up and eventually made into a trail that roughly parallels the former Reading trackage, including that viaduct we saw earlier from the train. A bit of that line also became the Kinwood line, the subject of a future video. We'll be taking this trail as far as Birdsboro, where we will catch a BARTA bus the rest of the way to Reading. Just think we could have been seeing this view out the window of an RDC. So we've just crossed a bridge and we are now in Berks County.
Yes, the stop after Girard.
Caution, target range nearby, stay on trail and do not climb side slopes for any reason. Are we gonna get shot?
We gotta stay on this trail, man. I don't know.
Always walk with a friend.
Does it say that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So fun fact, where we're standing used to be Pennsylvania Railroad right-of-way.
This
yes,
trail?
Yeah, this used to be the Pennsylvania Railroad, and its rival, the Reading, was right over there. So you could have trains from rival companies passing within, several yards of each other. And that's, of course, where the trains to Reading that ended in 1981 would be running.
That was such a fun fact.
Now that is a fun fact.
Caution, hunting season. Wear blaze orange clothing from September through February. This trail is so dangerous.
Good thing it's March. We just realized this is the perfect rail trail because it's not like you can say, oh, well, they should have tracks along here, because there's tracks right there that go to the same place. It's the perfect rail trail. It's completely redundant.
Mysterious clump of stone pillars.
Pensy-henge.
That's my theory. It was Pennsylvania Railroad workers put a bunch of stones up so that if a Reading train derailed here, it would go.
We are now crossing the Schuylkill River. We just heard a train horn off in the distance. Of course, this is when we're... There it is again.
Yeah.
This is when we're nowhere near any railroad tracks.
If it had happened, 15 minutes earlier, we would have gotten the perfect Homer shot. But now we're getting a Nomer shot.
Here is an infrastructure. If anyone can tell me what this is, that would be much appreciated.
I'm gonna guess signal base. My guess.
You are probably right. We hear the train, can't see it. So as you can see, we have reached the end of the trail, and we now need to walk on this road with no sidewalk and lots of cars to get to the bus stop. So this is where I will dramatically reveal that the bus doesn't come to Birdsboro on weekends, which it is currently Saturday. I think we broke Miles.
Oh, so we're gonna cheat.
Yeah, we are gonna take an Uber from here to the Exeter Square Walmart, which is the extent that BARTA runs on Saturdays. How is morale, Miles?
I think the tiredness is starting to hit me, but still hanging in there for now.
So I made a little oopsie and I left my phone in the Uber. So Miles is trying to log out of Uber so I can log into Uber on his phone and call the driver. Hopefully. Stay tuned. Conflict! Man versus nature. So Uber has contacted our driver and they'll send any messages to Miles's phone. If we get them, Miles has gotten himself a snack. Well, that worked out as I was repeatedly trying to contact customer support and call my own number. The driver just walked in and handed me my phone. So we're back on track.
Yeah.
Man versus nature, man has won. Actually, it's man versus self, technically, and I've won against my own stupidity. So, onwards to Reading. This bus will take us from the Walmart all the way to downtown Reading. As we approach the city, the housing stock gets denser and the land gets hillier. Reading is home to 95,000 people, with a metro area of 420,000. It's also one of the poorest small cities in the nation, with 35.4% of the population living below the poverty line as of 2018. Major industries here include healthcare, manufacturing, pseudo-Japanese architecture, and pretzels. So we are now here in BARTA's main transit center in downtown Reading. We have made it all the way from Philadelphia. It's been over 6 hours. Let's go in the waiting area and see what we can see. A lot of seats, it's nice and warm. Way to go, BARTA. Got some very permanent looking signage for the Amtrak Thruway bus to Philadelphia, which we'll be taking in a few minutes. Okay, wish we got that on camera. There was a pigeon perched on this drinking fountain. And neither of us noticed until it started flying. It was like inches from our faces. We both
That was terrifying.
Amtrak. Oh my gosh, it's back! Why are you on our drinking fountain?
They have BlackBerry chargers, they have Samsung chargers, they have Nokia chargers, Sony Ericsson. What even is that?
We pass Amtrak's Thruway bus, which will make its last southbound trip of the day at 2 p.m. But before we get on, we have a couple places to visit. So if we had taken a SEPTA or Reading RDC back in the day, this is where we would have gotten off and transferred to a bus to our restaurant where we're gonna have a late lunch. But as is, it is currently a brew pub and there are no trains. So I know what you're probably thinking now. The tracks are still there. The stations are still there. Why not bring trains back to Reading? Well, these days, it's a much discussed possibility. On its 2021 map of proposed future expansions, Amtrak listed a Philadelphia to Reading service as a possibility. And in 2022, local county governments formed the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority, or SRPRA, to study the project further. 2023 saw the line accepted into the federal government's Corridor ID program, a broad effort to build or expand passenger rail corridors around the US. The story of how the SRPRA managed to band together and push for local rail service is worth its own video, but suffice to say, momentum is strong, and you can stay up to date or get involved by checking out their socials at the link in the description. But as for us, we're stepping off at the American Diner, a 1963 building from the Superior Dining Car Company. So Miles, bad news. The bus leaves in 1 minute.
What?
Okay, so here we were trying to make a whole point about the inadequacy of the bus schedules connecting two relatively close Pennsylvania cities, and indeed, just a couple weeks after we filmed this, Amtrak would indeed follow through on their plan and shut down the Reading Thruway route entirely. But, in response to community demand, Flixbus and our bus answered the call. And now, as of September when I'm recording this, there are 3 intercity buses a day between Reading and Philadelphia at much more reasonable times. So the clear lesson here is to wait to put out your advocacy video for months and let the problem solve itself. Any case, back in our story, the new buses haven't gone into effect yet, and the last Amtrak bus has left. So the best way back to Philly is... yikes. You know, I'm gonna let Miles cover this one.